Yeah.
All
Are
right.
you ready, John?
Hello and welcome back to the Rossi Brothers Sports Podcast. My name is John, joined as always by my brother Adam. And Adam, who are we joined by today?
Yeah, real treat. We are joined today by a special guest, Mr. Ted Friedman. Ted was born and raised near Des Moines, Iowa, a two-time All-State basketball player for Ankeny High School. He helped lead the Hawks to back-to-back third-place finishes in the state tournament. He played college basketball at Northern Iowa, where he played on two NCAA tournament teams while triple majoring in business economics, finance, and psychology. He now lives in the Des Moines area with his wife, where he plays recreational basketball and works as a bank examiner. Welcome, Ted, and thanks so much for joining us on the podcast today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Good. It's mutual. It's mutual.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It literally just clicked for me. Hearing the word Des Moines and remembering do you get a lot of people mispronouncing Des Moines if they ever mention it to you?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
all the time. They actually have a big ad campaign that's now for Des Moines that's called "The S's Are Silent." So they're trying to get people to actually figure
Nice.
out how
Yeah.
to say our city.
I remember as an elementary schooler, I thought it was Des Moines. So
Yep,
yeah.
absolutely. That's what everybody thinks. Yep.
Some
Gotcha.
people,
Okay.
as post-college graduates, think it's called Des Moines. Is that going to test you? Last year, we had someone at the farm who I was driving with her, and we passed a sign for Des Moines, as she said. She's like, Des Moines, where's that? Yeah, so
Yep.
it's a thing.
Yep.
Well,
It's growing though, so hopefully
We're helping to spread the word that the S.
Yeah, perfect. That's why I'm on here actually. Just make sure everyone knows it's called Des Moines.
Everyone, the S's are silent. All right.
Yep.
Super cool. Well, growing up in Des Moines, what kind of led you to this basketball path? Kind of describe your sports path for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Basketball's always kind of been a thing that I have been drawn to. Ever since I've been, a little old enough to hold a basketball, I think I've been wanting to play basketball. I started in that, little toddler types leagues, and very quickly, I grew to love the game. I think, it all started too when I started being on a traveling team, in first, second grade. And I think my biggest, it started getting real serious in second grade even, when I went to our first big national travel tournament. At that time, it's still called just AAU. And we went all the way down to Memphis, Tennessee, and played in a tournament down there. I was a second grader, and just because of my summer birthday, I was playing actually on a team with all third graders. And we actually went down to this tournament. It was AAU Nationals for third grade, and we ended up getting, I think it was either 7th or 10th or something within there. And that kind of, kicked it all off for me. And even throughout that, I think then, and then in third grade, once I got there, I played on that team. And then I also played on a team that was my own age too. And, I just remember thinking back on it, and I just absolutely loving basketball. Like I don't, my parents had to eventually stop me, and they told me that I needed to pick one or the other teams because they just thought I was going to get myself burnt out. So it was just kind of crazy how much basketball I was playing as a little kid, and I was just absolutely loving it. So, that was real young age is where I kind of grew to love that game.
So it was really all basketball all the time for you. It wasn't like you were playing other sports. You were pretty much basketball year round.
Yeah, I did all of the the little leagues and the like junior footballs for like baseball and football, but more so just on the front of just doing the city leagues and everything. Did a little bit of travel baseball for a very brief moment, at a couple tournaments and things, but basketball just kind of was my first love, and never really stopped from there. And I just kept growing more and more and liking it. And I know even like once I finally came onto I think it was like 5th or 6th grade, I finally got into like one of those, official travel teams. I think it was the first one kind of in the Des Moines area. I remember having that conversation with my parents, and up in their bedroom about, if they should be paying money for all this fancy basketball stuff. And me just really, really wanted to do it. And eventually, I did it. And I just, even though, all the running and extra things, even as a 5th and 6th grader, you think that would be horrible, but I'm just out here, just loving every second of it. And I just, think of come back in fond memories of those times.
Dude, for the love of the game.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's good to hear. Now, I played basketball with your brother Ben. He's a pretty good player in his own right there. Would you say your family's a basketball family? Were there other basketball players around?
Yeah, I know. I'd say our family is a huge games family, is what I'd officially say. Our family is definitely games all the time, no matter what they are. They could be board games, card games, sports, any kind of competitions anywhere. Actually, interesting enough, and I think this, it stems from both my mom and my dad, but my mom especially. She grew up in Sioux City, Iowa, a town about 50,000 on the western edge of Iowa, probably 50,000 at that time. And her and her siblings, she had 5 siblings, and they just grew up sports all the time. They created their own association. They called it the Carpuck, which is my mom's maiden name, Carpuck Athletic Association. And
Nice.
they did all kinds of sports and everything. And at one point, it became so actually serious enough that they developed, like they had a commission and everything, and they developed the first soccer league within Sioux City, of a town of 50,000 people or so that didn't have a city soccer league at the time. And I think they had, a dozen or maybe 24 teams that had joined that kind of thing. So they were just
cool.
sports all year round. And it's kind of, just kind of crazy with all that. And then, I mean, my dad, he just can't get enough of any kind of game. I feel like he just continues to, want to play games over and over. And my dad, mom and my dad didn't, play any college sports or anything, but I did have 2 uncles on my mom's side and one on my dad's side play basketball at Briarcliff University, which is in Sioux City. And so they play for that team. And so there's definitely, sports and games that run within my blood all the way through. And I think that's kind of what fueled me, is just that, love to play the sport and the game and everything.
It's a family game that can get pretty competitive at the Friedman household. Is that what I'm hearing?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's basically, you can't go more than 30 minutes without someone thrown out there to play a game. And just even over Thanksgiving here recently, I feel like, that we played, every time we got together, it's 2 or 3 games at all. And it's now even running through the veins of our, our nephews and our nieces of wanting to play games all the time. They're as much games as possible, and we started a turkey bowl even with that family and everything for football game, and so it's just
Nice.
kind of games all over the place.
There it is.
Awesome.
Your mom did a little better than I did as a kid. She started a soccer league in City. I for like a day, I started the Adam Rossi table or paper football league.
Oh, there you go.
I was probably in like 2nd or 3rd grade, and I got Sports Illustrated for Kids. I think my grandpa gave me a subscription for Sports Illustrated for Kids. And there are all these, obviously a lot of sports in there, but also ads. And some of the ads it was for Nabisco, I think. It was like Oreos and peanut fingers. What do they call those things? Nutter Butters,
Oh yeah.
And they each had like a uniform in this ad. It was like a basketball uniform or a football uniform maybe. And I thought, whoa, like mind blown. I'm going to design these logos and helmets, these football helmets for these teams that are cookie teams. And then I'll make a paper football league out of it. And I told my mom, I was like, Mom, this is the greatest thing ever. Like, I'll make all these paper footballs and I'll have the team names and logos on the paper footballs, and it'll play. And I had this whole schedule made up. And so I was like, all right, it's the first game. It's like Oreo versus Nutter Butter or whatever. And I lost, and I was like, all right, that's it, I'm done, never mind.
You lost.
Wow.
I realized during that game, I was like, oh, I really was just planning on my team winning the whole thing. And I guess I was pretty easily deterred. So it only lasted for like a few hours, but I'm glad
we must be brothers, obviously. Because I never realized that you did that, but I also like started a paper football league. This is in like middle school. So this was myself and my good friend Tim Wolodkin. Shout out to Tim. For like a week, we were co-commissioners of a paper football league amongst our friends that played every day during lunch. And we made like standardized paper footballs. Like we developed a method to like make the football so it was the same every time.
Yeah, it can't be cheated.
To try to like standardize it amongst all our friends and stuff. and I like put a design on it or whatever. It's like a dragon, just like drawn a bunch of like little waves to make it look like dragon scales or whatever. So it lasted approximately a week, and that was it. But I never realized that you did that too.
Yeah, I forgot at BW that was like a huge thing. I remember we play with our lunch cards on the table, but they would like slide, especially if you put them like magnetic strip side down. And I remember thinking like, man, I don't want to play with my card because I'm afraid I won't be able to pay for lunch because they'll like mess up the magnetic strip somehow. But that was huge. That was huge. Well, yeah, I'm not sure if you had any paper football exploits in Ankeny, Ted, but it was pretty big.
Not as fancy as that. I mean, I've played my fair share of paper football as a middle schooler, getting in trouble, but other than that, nothing like developing a league there.
Yeah. So by the time you get to high school, well, first of all, I was gonna ask another question, but tell us how tall you are.
Officially 6'8" without shoes. So. Okay.
What were you listed at in college?
6'9". I wasn't one to exaggerate. I figured, tell them like it is, and then they can see how everyone's gonna see how tall you are once you get on the court anyway. So
right.
No need to exaggerate.
So was there like I was just reading today that or my friend Aaron actually told me that Anthony Davis, he was talking about several players. One he mentioned was Anthony Davis, is a center and like huge, but was a lot smaller growing up, and even in the middle school played point guard, and then hit his growth spurt. And apparently people attribute some of his ball handling skills to being a point guard for a lot of his life. But were you always like the tallest kid in your class? Was center always a thing for you, or did you transition into other positions?
Yeah, I was definitely always the tallest. I was, those doctors' growth charts, I was always not even on the top of the chart. There was my mom would always draw a box and put a dot way above, and I was nowhere near the charts at all. And like, I think, my biggest milestones that I remember is that as a seventh grader is when I finally passed my dad, who was 6'4", 6'5". So I was 6'4", 6'5" as a seventh grader. And then in ninth grade, I was 6'7". And so I did most of my growth pre ninth grade. And then, after that, I slowed down. I think I reached my height now of when I was like either a sophomore or junior in high school.
Okay. Gotcha. Wow. So even more above the curve. I'd say that looking above the hedge there.
above and ahead of the curve.
Oh,
on two axes,
Yep. Nice. Yeah, I guess I'd just be interested in high school. Just some brief moments that stood out to you. I don't know if you have any best games or memories or what have you from your playing career as an Ankeny Hawk.
Yeah, is kind of a little bit of an interesting career. I guess quick tidbit about how it started. As a freshman, I came on and I played varsity, and we were actually really, really young. That year we started a junior, 3 sophomores, and then me as a freshman. So we were a really, really young team. I think we ended up going 17-7 and just lost in the sub-state final, so the game to get to state. And so we had a lot of growth, and a lot of these guys that I was playing with are actually the same guys that I grew up playing in that, the tournament I talked about in Memphis. A lot of these guys are the exact same guys I've been growing up playing with there. And then along with in AAU throughout my time there. And so then sophomore year, we were really good. But still had some growth that needed to happen as that year we started a senior, 3 juniors and a sophomore. And so I think that year we went 20-3, and we lost in the state semifinals. And we lost that game in overtime as well. So that was a tough one to lose. Yeah, and it was just crazy because we were, it was tough to lose, but I think in the back of our minds we all knew how good of a team we had coming back. We lost, one main really good guy, but we had a ton of talent coming back the next year. And so that next year we were, super excited to go through it and kind of breeze through the regular season. Went undefeated throughout the regular season. I mean, we only had 2 or 3 close games at that time, and just having all kinds of fun playing out there. And then the first game of state, I think we won by it was like 30 points, and just, blew the team out. And so we were feeling great. And then the semifinal game again, we played, and there's a guy named Adam Woodbury. He was a 7'1" footer that ended up playing at University of Iowa. We graduated. So we played him, and they were Sioux City East was the team. And during that game, at one point, Woodbury got his fourth foul. And I think there were about 5 or 6 minutes left. And because he got his fourth foul, they took him out. And then the coach went into a 2-3 zone. And so it ended up trying to draw them out. We ended up trying to just bring out the ball towards my half court just to try to draw them out. Because I think at this point we were up with like 4 points. And what happened was the other coaches just decided to stay in the 2-3 zone. So at that point, we kind of went into just an absolute stalemate of we just absolutely just held the ball at half court. And the other team stayed in a 2-3 zone. And we legit held the ball for 5 minutes. It was
no shot clock. It sounds like that.
What'd you say?
No shot clock. It sounds like.
Nope, no, absolutely not. Yeah, it's with that, it was a crazy game at that time. Is one of those things that you look back in the moment, and like it makes sense. Like you bring the ball out, you think that they're going to come out of it, and you just kind of both teams are kind of getting stuck in their ways. Yeah. And then, what ended up happening is they finally came out, probably a minute or two left in the game, probably a minute left in the game. A couple bang plays later, we were in overtime, and then ended up, Woodbury came back in the game, and we went in and eventually into double overtime, and then losing in double overtime. And so it was heartbreak. Yeah, it was an absolute heartbreaker because we knew just how good of a team we had, and how tough everything was at the time. And the game will kind of live in infamy a little bit of how how hard it was, and if go back and forth if we should have kept going and tried to break the 2-3 zone as with Woodbury out, but so can't go back now. But
it was ended up fouling out of the game.
But I don't think he did actually. No, there's a little bit of controversy there too. Is that I tried to draw 3 charges on him during that game, and I would say objectively, in my opinion, if I try to be objective as possible, I think 2 of them were legit charges on him that they didn't call. I called 3 blocking. And
did you foul out of the game?
Dang.
That's a great question. I don't think so. I might have at the end. I can't remember honestly now. I think I've blocked.
Once it goes into multiple overtimes, it's to pile up, I think.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, I know my first game, actually my sophomore year when we were in state, I think I fouled out with I think about 7 or 10 minutes of playing time. So I was definitely a big hacker in my day. But
those dang Adams, man, messing things up.
Yep. So we ended up that year as well getting both times we won the actual consolation game. So we ended up getting 3rd in state back-to-back years.
Mm-hmm.
And then
nothing to sneeze at.
Yep. And then my senior year, we were good, but we lost, 4 of our top scorers and everything. And ended up losing the sub-state final again before state. And the other interesting thing about that team that we ended up going 25-1 that year, my junior season, is that we had the most balanced scoring attack you'd probably ever see. Our top 5 scorers, we averaged 10.8, 10.3, 10.0, 10.0, 9.8 points per game.
Wow.
And so
it's hard to do. Quite a stat.
Yeah. So we were
in a single point range.
Yeah, it was crazy. I actually looked it up today, and I think between the top first guy and the 5th guy, I think it only like 40 points separated the entire season between them. And so we had a lot of great guys in each position. So it was such a heartbreaking loss to lose that one in double overtime.
Do you think you, obviously in double overtime, that game could have gone either way. Did the team you lost to end up winning the championship? What did they end up doing in the next game?
Yeah, they ended up losing. There was actually a team from the east side of the state that we didn't get to play. 2 of the guys actually, Jeremy Morgan and Wyatt Lohaus, were on this Iowa City West team, and they were actually undefeated as well. And we were kind of, they were the team that we lost to my sophomore year, or we beat in the third place game. And so we knew next year coming back, we were both 25-0, or 24-0 and going to that semifinals game. And we thought for sure the whole year we were just 1-2 in the state, and thought that, we were going to meet each other for sure to see who was the true champions. And so they ended up, the Iowa City West team ended up winning it all.
Wow. Well, you had a much more illustrious high school basketball career than myself. So,
there's a lot
glad
of
you got
great
to enjoy
memories
it.
there, but yeah, it was definitely one was definitely tough.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But
Such is life.
clearly an impressive career though, which then led into college. So as you mentioned, you ended up playing at Northern Iowa, playing for head coach Ben Jacobson. So like what was the recruiting process like? Like, why did you end up choosing Northern Iowa? Yeah. And what was it like kind of playing for Coach Jacobson there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the recruiting process was kind of crazy. As a 16, 17-year-old kid, I was a fairly shy kid too, and trying to have to talk to all these college coaches on the phone all the time was I think was not a pleasant experience for me nor the coaches to try to do. But it was just crazy kind of getting all the letters and everything that I had received throughout my time.
It was good practice to talk to us on the podcast, talking on the phone with the coach.
Exactly. It was all for this moment.
Yep, exactly. But yeah, and I think, the recruiting experience was great. I think the biggest thing that, drew me to Northern Iowa was just, the coaches were so great within the recruiting process. And, you could tell that they definitely wanted me. And I think at one point they offered me and said they weren't going to offer anybody else. And if I wanted it, it was mine. And so it was really, I truly felt like I was wanted there. And it was going to be a great experience. And I know, like, even there's one game during one of my AAU careers that we played really badly in this tournament, and we're in like some random school in the middle of Arkansas playing this game, and the refs didn't even show up for this game, and so we ended up having to cancel it. But Coach Jacobson was actually in the crowd during that game, or it was supposed to be he came to see the game, and he was the only one that showed up and everything. And I just thought that dedication of wanting me and everything was just very cool to see, and definitely felt like I was wanted there. And I think it was close to home helped. Our home state kind of helped as well. Helped me choose that. And then Coach Jacobson is all. He's a great guy. Definitely, he's very nice. I think he definitely cares about his players a lot. And I think he's one of the best, definitely a top defensive mind in the game. I think his defenses are always incredible year in and year out. And stifle teams. I think every time you see UNI as evidence in the past couple games that they played here this season, I think they're always going to be in it in those big games, because a lot of these big time teams haven't seen a defense that is as good as UNI's. And so that's always been something that the UNI has taken pride in. And I think that was one of the other reasons I chose UNI, is because my main things as a player was I just love defense. That was where I took the most pride in myself. And I think I've matched up just playing style wise very well with UNI as well.
Knocked out the Bonnies the other day. I saw that.
What'd you say?
I said you guys knocked out the Bonnies the other day.
Yep,
Bonadventure.
exactly. Yeah, it's
cool
great to see that win.
Yeah, still doing it.
I was gonna say, speaking of big wins, so taking you back to 2015, November of 2015, Northern Iowa played North Carolina, a game in which you had 5 rebounds, in which Northern Iowa won. So like, what was that like? Like that?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It is an absolute, incredible experience. I've never been a part of anything quite like that. I mean, the crowd was insane. Like there was, just you couldn't even see any part of the stadium or the arena without anyone. Like there's just people everywhere, standing room. They sold out so many tickets for that game. It was just absolutely nuts. And that, for those who don't know, that game is actually at Northern Iowa. And you might ask why did North Carolina come to Northern Iowa? And it's because they had Marcus Page at the time, who was from a town near Northern Iowa. And Roy Williams always tried to get his players to play one game within their career at their home state. And so we were the ones that were available to play that. And so
they ended up regretting that decision later.
Yeah, exactly. But funny enough that Marcus Page actually got hurt like a couple days or a week before the game, so he didn't even get to play in that game against us, which was kind of stunk for him and for us as well. Wanting him to be able to play there. But yeah, that game was absolutely nuts, and that game is not only special for Northern Iowa, but I think it was super special for me as well. It actually ended up being the game I played the most amount of time in my career. It was just kind of crazy. I know my dad always used to say that I always played to the level of my competition. And I think, that game, I just got in and things seemed to be rolling well. And I was able to, kind of help guard Meeks and Bryce Johnson at the time. And kind of stifle the amount of points. Obviously, you can't stop those guys completely, but kind of shut them down a little bit from what they're normally used to. The game was just absolutely crazy. I think at one point during the first half we got down a little bit, and then Wes Washburn hit a half quarter to go into the half. That gave us kind of some life. I think it brought it back to double or single digits, and then we took a late lead in the game. And I think it was just absolutely nuts. I think after we ended up winning, everyone stormed the court, and it was just an absolute surreal feeling for sure.
I mean, during that game, was there a point before the final buzzer sounded when you were like, we're going to win, like we're going to beat the number one team in the nation? Like at what point were you like, wow, this is going to happen?
I think I don't think till the final buzzer sound that I knew for sure we were going to win. But you could tell, when we made after Wes's half quarter going into halftime, and then once we started making a run, kind of the whole second half, it seemed like we kind of controlled the second half a little bit. And we more so we cut the lead and then eventually took the lead at the appropriate time. And you kind of feel about that 10-minute mark when the game was, nice and close. You kind of feel everyone in the crowd, getting behind it more, and everyone just momentum just keep building and building. And we could kind of just feel that, the game was going our way. But I think even down to the final, minute, I think we only ended up winning by about 4 points. So it was close the whole time. But I think until I have an image in my mind of Jeremy Morgan, getting the ball finally on a steal, and that kind of being the final buzzer. And I think that's when it, ended up officially, sinking in that we won the game.
Yeah, it's a pretty sweet memory. Not many people can say they recorded their career high in minutes and rebounds against the number one team in the nation and knocked them off.
Yep, absolutely.
That's for sure. That ended up being a pretty special season too, because then, obviously that game, and then later that year you went on to the NCAA tournament, and you beat Texas in the first round of the tournament. But so like traveling to the tournament and then getting to play in a game like that, what was that like as well?
This is what ever since I was a little kid, this is what you dream of, is just going to the NCAA tournament and playing in the NCAA tournament and being a part of March Madness, and just having that feeling is so surreal. Just the the whole energy surrounding the tournament is just absolutely insane. And you can just feel just how incredible it is getting there and the build up, and you just stay in the hotel and they give you some swag and stuff, and that's just so cool too. And you get to go on the court with the March Madness logo on it and everything, and then actually absolutely playing in the game, it's just crazy too. And that that Texas game, I think Paul Jesperson, as many people who follow college basketball will see year in and year out now on the March Madness replays, hit a crazy half court shot at the end of the game to win it. And it was just, surreal feeling to go into that locker room after hitting that and during March Madness, and, Paul's phone just absolutely blowing up, and, everyone just going nuts and seeing themselves and on ESPN and everything. And it was just a really crazy, cool, experience all the way through.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. speaking of ESPN, can't go too much longer without mentioning that you were featured on Scott Van Pelt's show
Mhm.
on ESPN. Can you? So I've seen the clip, but for those of our listeners who don't know, could you tell us a little bit about why you were featured on Scott Van Pelt's show?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is actually my senior night, on my senior year, obviously. This is kind of my senior year is kind of a unique experience that, I really developed to try to play more of a four position, and ended up, shooting a ton of threes, in practice and in the gym and everything, so that I could kind of stretch out a little bit farther. But throughout the season, I actually only got to shoot 4 total threes throughout it. And I was, a 50% on them. But so I was kind of seen as the guy who could really shoot too much, because I was, more of a specialty, the nuanced area of only when I needed to. But on senior night, it was the end of the game. I was still in, being that was senior night, and I think we took the ball out of bounds, kind of towards our baseline, but on the sideline. And Coach Jacobson just told me to go get the ball and shoot it. And so I just sprinted towards the ball right in the corner. I got the ball. I turned around. I did basically kind of a turnaround jumper from the 3-point line, and switched it at the end of the game. And because of that, I didn't realize at the time that I ended up, beating the spread because of that. And so I think it was right when Scott Van Pelt kind of did this new show about, beating the spread, a guy's beating the spread. And that was kind of someone out of nowhere shooting a random 3 at the end of the game on a senior night to end up beating the spread. And so I ended up getting featured on it, which was pretty cool.
That's awesome. Did you know, like, at what point, how did you find out that you were going to be featured on ESPN? Did Scott Van Pelt call you, or how did you find out about that?
No, yeah, he didn't. I mean, he didn't talk anything about me. I think it was just more of a highlight on that he got to do on the shows. I think, if I remember, I think I either saw it on Twitter, but I think the first person that might have actually brought it to my attention was Ben. And I think he saw it somewhere on Twitter or something and sent it to me. And I think that's kind of how I found out. But no, I didn't talk to Scott or anything like that on it.
Was it very long after it happened that it was featured?
No, it was that night. It was almost right away. So
wow,
yeah,
that's awesome. That's also how do those guys do that? Because at the very end of the clip, the guy that's not Scott Van Pelt on the show said well, I went through a lot of work to bring you this clip. And my first thought was yeah, man, Ted Friedman, it's so cool. My other thought was but yeah, and now that you mentioned that, how are they aware of that so quickly? That's kind of insane.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it must be, there's a lot of guys that, care a lot about the spreads and everything like that. So probably guess someone was upset and they probably have someone following that stuff and got it up the chain quick enough and to find it. But yeah, I mean,
there was a bookie following the game or something that was, that put a lot of money on it or whatever.
Yep, exactly. But yeah, I mean, it was a pretty random game. I don't think it was anything too crazy, significant of that game. Being, throughout the season, I think the standings were already pretty well done. So I don't know. It was a pretty random game to find that I broke the spread. So I don't know. Kind of cool though.
It's a great.
Sometimes sometimes in the middle of the least expected times is when you find gems like that. Anyway.
Yep.
Sorry.
Exactly.
Waxing philosophical.
Speaking of some philosophical stuff, you talked a little about your high school career and your college career, and from our discussion here, and just from a little bit that I read and looked at your stats and stuff, it seems like you went from being a pretty big star. You were, I think, all state twice in high school, to seeing a reduction of minutes in college, playing D1. So could you talk just a little bit about what maybe what was going through your head and how you handled that transition from maybe being a big fish and not necessarily a small pond, but going to the D1 level and taking on a little more of a reserve role?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, even in that sense, I think I had a kind of a unique career. in college. So I actually, my freshman year, I actually started my very first college basketball game,
Wow.
and actually played my freshman year of college. But throughout that season, I think we were kind of trying something new throughout that season and moving players to different areas. One of our best players at the time was Seth Tuttle, and they were trying to move him more to a 4 spot, and so that allowed me to come in at the 5. And then ended up finding that wasn't the best situation for our team, and so he kind of moved back to that 5 spot, and I kind of saw a reduction in role, and so I kind of throughout that year, I started getting less and less minutes, and I actually ended up redshirting my sophomore year, given that Tuttle was still going to be there that year, and throughout all that, and then going forward, I wasn't as much of a scorer in my own right. I was more of the guy was there for defense, and I was a great screener. I was able to basically I could get a guy shot anytime I needed to through screening and everything, but I was not that as big of a threat as a scorer. And I think that that really came down to it as one of the main reasons that I didn't play as much. It's definitely hard. It's definitely something that it takes some getting used to and hurts your ego a little bit, but I think it's given me really, just not even, really good perspective through a team, and just seeing how just doing the best I can through, the practice squad and, the minutes that I got. So I think I probably averaged about 8 to 10 minutes, through my sophomore, junior, and senior year, a game. And, just making the most out of that and making sure that, I had the best, plus minus that I could possibly have, and best impact on the team that I possibly could. And so I think, noticing that, it just gave me a really good perspective, not only where basketball fit within my life, but just in general, a perspective on life, that things aren't just always going to be as, rainbows and unicorns and sunshines and rainbows and stuff. So it was just really cool. I think it was really humbling for me, and a great perspective that, this led me into my life and career as well. Just being able to, take that into stride and really let me know what is most important in my life.
Mm-hmm. So today in 2021, if you were still playing and I was asking you this question, I feel like I don't know. I haven't asked any college players question, but I feel like a lot of people's reaction would be like, "Go to the portal, baby. Let's check out the portal." So. I correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think the portal was around yet back when you were playing, but did it ever cross your mind to try to go somewhere else to get more minutes at another school?
Yeah, it definitely crossed my mind. I think at the time when I was playing, it was still you had to sit out a year if you transferred. Especially given that I had redshirted my second year, I definitely would have just lost a year. But overall, I think, just taking that in stride, not only with how close I've gotten with, the coaches and the team and everything, just surrounding myself by those, great guys that were around me. I think that was, part of it. And then just surrounding myself with people who, and I think just gaining that perspective on life and, what truly mattered within my life and, my studies and everything were a big part of that. My girlfriend, now wife at the time, was a big part of that. And then, just all the people I was around and where I was at was, a big part of that. I think one of the main places that they're the guys that, I played grade school ball with and AAU ball. They actually played at Truman State in Missouri, which is a D2 school. And they talked to me a little bit about playing with them again, which was an exciting idea for a while, just to be able to play with those guys again. And just really enjoy, basketball on that kind of level again, and not have to worry about all the stress and pressure of everything that came with it. So, but I think in the end, those factors of, still really enjoying the game and, all the team aspect and my studies and my personal life as well, all kind of came into the factor of staying where I was at. But I don't fault anyone for transferring. And I think, it's definitely a spot that should be utilized. It's really tough for, a 16, 17-year-old kid to make a decision about where they're going to play basketball for 5 years on their own with, no knowledge of what college is even like. And so I think it's just really tough to ask a kid to stay out of school for 5 years if he ends up, even if he doesn't like it. and punishing him for it, which is tough. So I think, I don't know if this is what you were getting into, but I think a little bit too is just, I think players should be able to transfer, maybe you could sort of say just once, but I don't think there should be a penalty at that time, just because you never know what a kid's going through, or what he didn't know about college basketball at the time.
So in a sense, the portal kind of removed that penalty, right? Because you don't have to sit out a year anymore. You could say that's kind of a penalty for transferring. So yeah. If that wasn't in place, if you were playing and the portal was a thing and you didn't have to sit out a year, do you think that would have affected your decision on whether or not to go to Truman or maybe another place?
It definitely would have weighed on me more heavily, I think. I can't say at this point that I would have done anything. Like I said, there was a lot of factors that was keeping me at UNI, and I still like, the coaching staff and all the players and everything. And I was still getting 8 to 10 minutes a game and everything. So I wasn't displeased with where I was at. So I don't want to come off as like I was unhappy with where I was at. So, but I wouldn't lie to say that, it wouldn't cross my mind to like, should I want to try to get more minutes somewhere else? So I think it would have probably played a part, but I think I was still very happy with where I was at. And it didn't, obviously everyone wants to play more minutes, but I don't think that was, big enough factor for me to want to transfer, since I was still happy with everything.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I was going to guess too, talking about like how things function now, almost, it strikes me that it might also just seem more like an option now because other people are doing it. I guess one of the factors, I guess you're talking about what might affect someone making that decision is that like, if more people are transferring now currently, there's more of a chance that someone else is going to transfer into where you're playing, and like that affects stuff or whatever. And just the more that it's happening, the more likely it is to happen with someone else. Yeah. So maybe also kind of to your point of people being able to do that, or like being able to make a decision to change something, have some flexibility in there. To not be, to be able to kind of decide that beyond just, when you're 17 and you make your first commitment to something.
Even people talk about, you should stay for the school and everything. And you got to think about, these are student athletes, instead of not getting paid or anything, but you got to think about the general, student population too. How many people switch schools during their time because they, ended up seeing what they like. Like, why can't, like an athlete should probably have the same decision to, switch schools so they, to help make their life to be what it is. So I just thought I've always thought that, and I don't think in the end, even if I had the, the ability to transfer, that I would have. I think, I was happy with where I was at and where my career and my life was going. So I don't think I would have made a different choice, but I definitely think that athletes should have that opportunity too.
Yeah. You mentioned, Ted, some other factors that were keeping you at Northern Iowa, and you mentioned specifically two that I want to bring up here. One were your studies. Mentioned in your bio there in the intro, you're a triple major, and the other one being your current wife. That sounds bad. Who was your girlfriend, now your wife. So I guess these are two separate questions. But first of all, say the best for last. But being a triple major, like when I was in college, I had one major and one minor. I was in the marching band, which was 2 hours a day we didn't even practice Monday. So like 2 hours a day plus a lot on Saturday. But I felt like I didn't have a whole lot of free time. And I remember thinking, like, I could not imagine being a student athlete. Like that's your life, was my impression in college. And then, and most of these, and I don't want to say most, a lot of student athletes, especially like football, men's basketball players, are maybe not the most rigorous of majors. But then I'm like, man, you had a triple major. Like that's crazy. What was that like, playing full-time Division I college basketball and triple majoring?
Yeah, absolutely. I know, just being to your first, one of your points is that being a student athlete in general, I think, it's definitely a different life style than most other college students. It's basically like a full-time job. And I think a lot of people don't realize how much time you truly have to put in. You got probably putting in 40 hours a week just of basketball wise. Wake up, you got your individual workout, you got lifting, you got practice, and then just this on its own, and that's probably taking up 5 hours of your day right there. And so then having that on top of schoolwork makes it definitely for a full schedule. So definitely a lot less parties for me during my tenure than probably most college students. But as far as triple majoring, I think one of the biggest things that helped me is I had time. Going from high school, I was blessed to come from a high school that offered a lot of college credit courses. So I actually brought in a year's worth of college credits coming into college, and then being there for in college for 5 years allowed me to pursue a lot of different interests that I've had, and kind of gave me an ability to go through a lot of different areas. And so I kind of could, focus on 3 different areas of aspects that I really enjoyed learning about. And that's one of, the things I just really enjoy learning. And so I went into finance, economics, and psychology. I tell people, I like to learn about, numbers, specifically like on the number side. Economics, more get of a, more broad view of how things are moving. And then psychology, you got to know how people think to interact with them and stuff. So I kind of felt it was like a really good mix of different areas that I could take that into my future career. So I think it was definitely tough, and it took a lot of time for me to do that. But having 5 years plus a year of high school college credits definitely helped alleviate some of that stress.
Wow. And
nonetheless, still insanely impressive.
Mad props. I mentioned you didn't have enough or a whole lot of time, but you did have enough time to meet your wife, and I understand she was an athlete too.
Yeah, absolutely. So her name's Heather, and she her main name was Heather Hook, and she was probably she's a lot better athlete than I am. She actually played on the volleyball team at UNI as well. And I met her, freshman year, just athletes kind of hanging out with other athletes, kind of deal. And so slowly throughout my freshman year, kind of just was talking to her, and eventually, grew into a relationship and everything, which is very cool. But she was an amazing athlete at UNI as well. She was the setter for the volleyball team, and she actually ended up being an All-American her senior year of college. So.
Wow.
Which was very, very impressive. Obviously this All-American is an incredible honor. So she's definitely a better athlete than I am.
Might be having your kid on the Raspo Sports podcast here in another 20 some odd years or whenever. Not putting any pressure on you there, but got some athletic offspring.
Yeah, for sure. And definitely some height. I'm, like I said, I'm 6'8" and she's 5'10". And her dad's like, 6'7", and my brother's 6'5", so it's gonna be. I think there's a small chance that our kids will be short. That's for sure.
Super cool.
It gives good advantage for either volleyball or basketball. I would guess.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm not particularly tall myself, and I'm not good at either of those 2 sports. But from what I've been told / observed.
Well, this has been a lot of fun. Thanks so much for sharing all that you have, Ted. I really, really enjoyed this conversation. Wanted to leave just a few minutes here for a nod to your home state. I think you're the first Iowan to be on the Rossi Brothers Sports Podcast. So I think John's gonna lead us in a little game here of some Iowa trivia, if you want to take it away.
Indeed, this is a little trivia game I like to call Iowa. What is the answer?
So hopefully my state does not disown me here.
Hopefully these are answerable, but we don't want to make it too easy here. So
all right,
let's set the bar high.
All right, Ted, your first question. The first winner of this award is from Iowa. Is it A, the Borg Warner Trophy, B, the Cy Young Award, C, the NBA Rookie of the Year Award, or D, the Heisman Trophy? Note, A, the Borg Warner Trophy is the trophy for the winner of the Indianapolis 500.
The question, what was the question? Sorry, I missed that part.
The question is, the first winner of this award is from Iowa. So the inaugural winner of one of those 4 awards was an Iowan.
Well, the third one was the Cy-Hawk, right? Didn't you say Cy-Hawk or something?
The second one was the Cy Young.
Oh, Cy Young. Oh.
The third one is the NBA Rookie of the Year. And then the fourth one is the Heisman.
I'm going to have to go with the Cy Young.
Cy Young? Unfortunately, that is incorrect.
Yikes.
The correct answer was D, the Heisman Trophy. The winner was Jay Berwanger, who was born in Dubuque in 1914. He played for Chicago. Won in 1935.
Wow. Interesting. I did not know that.
I would not have known his name either. But that's okay. We're on to question 2, Ted. Question 2. Which of the big 4 universities in Iowa is the oldest? And I might not have to give you the multiple choice for this, but I will anyway. Is it A, Drake University, B, Iowa State University, C, Northern Iowa, or D, the University of Iowa?
I'd say it's got to be the University of Iowa. I can tell you that the oldest college in Iowa is actually Loras College, for where my brother attended.
Wow.
Go Duhawks.
Extra trivia. Yep. Iowa is the answer. You are correct, Ted. D, it is the University of Iowa. Founded in 1847.
However, I thought it was interesting that Iowa State is the oldest land grant institution in the country. After the Land Grant Act was passed in Congress, whatever, Iowa was the first state to establish a land grant institution.
Yeah.
But University of Iowa was older.
Of note, yeah, indeed.
Dude, Duhawks, that's cool. I didn't know about that.
Yeah. All right, one for 2 so far. Good, got a good rebound there. Something rebounding I'm sure you're familiar with. All right, on to question 3. Sergeant Charles Floyd, the only member of Lewis and Clark's team to die during their historic expedition, is buried in which Iowa city?
Sioux City.
Is it? There you go. Nailed it.
Did your mom like just teach you about all the Sioux City lore growing up?
I actually went by the other day, I was in Sioux City like probably a couple months ago, and we actually passed. They have like a obelisk type thing, like think of it like the Washington Monument, but they have one in like a tiny one in Sioux City, and we drove by it, and my dad actually reminded me that that's what it was for, was the Floyd Monument.
Nice.
Dude, super cool.
Very cool. Very cool. Wow. I think that's worth like a 1.5.
Yeah.
I don't have to make you read all of the answers. I knew that one down.
Thanks. I appreciate it. All right. Question 4. What is the Iowa state bird? Is it A, the grasshopper sparrow, B, the cerulean warbler, C, the American goldfinch, or D, the scarlet tanager?
It's the American goldfinch.
Right, you are. Right, you are.
The bird is the word.
Very, yeah.
I'm glad you knew that one.
Here.
As an amateur birder.
It's cool. And my middle school history going into.
Oh, nice.
Creeping up there for me.
Yeah, there it is.
Perfect. Well,
always
you got a good memory for it there, yeah. All right. And our final question. The Iowa caucuses are well known as being the first state presidential nomination each year. In which year did the Democratic Party decide to spread out the nomination process, making Iowa the first state to nominate a candidate each year? Was it A, 1876, B, 1908, C, 1944, or D, 1972?
I'm going to go with 1908. I feel like it was fairly early.
Unfortunately, it was later than 1908. So following the 1968 Democratic National Convention, when there were the protests for the following nomination cycles, when they changed it. So it was 1972 that the Iowa caucuses were, it became the first state there.
Interesting. Learning stuff about my state every day.
There it is. I
was gonna say,
I will
what,
say,
what matters now is that, you know, for a while, for all of our lifetimes, it's been that way. So
exactly.
Yep, exactly.
Iowa goes first.
Yep.
Growing up in the East, I wasn't really on the East Coast, but in the Eastern United States, like to me, I would say maybe even like into college. I mean, I knew where I was in a map because I like geography, but to me, like the idea there are a few states like this. I throw Nebraska in this category too, but Iowa, it was just like this enigma. Like I never met anyone from Iowa. I didn't really know that much about it. Like there's some states that have this like very strong, like, oh yeah, like that's this. Like, I don't know, I very strong associate like the Statue of Liberty, for example. Like, yeah, New York, like New York City with like New York, or like, I don't know, surfing in like California or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, Iowa, like, I don't know, it's just like this mystery to me, you know? And then my it was when I was in grad school. I worked at Custer State Park in South Dakota, and my boss, who was amazing, was from Iowa. I was like, whoa, tell me more about Iowa. You know, she kind of like started to unravel this mystery of Iowa for me, you know, and she was all about it. She's like, dude, Iowa's great. She goes to Iowa. So on the way back, I went 2 straight summers in South Dakota, and I took I-90 both times. Back and forth and back. But then my way back the second summer, I thought, I'm going to go through Iowa. And we went on I-80, went through the great state of Iowa, and I got to see it. And now it feels like a long time ago because I lived like 2 hours from Iowa. So a lot closer to the great state. But
Yep. I know a lot of people, there's a famous store here that has a shirt, and a lot of people always get confused with Idaho and Ohio. You get a lot of people that don't know that which one's which, even though they're very far. All of them are not even kind of near each other, but a lot of people get that confused with Idaho and Ohio.
Well, not to be
confused. The name thing with Idaho. Like, I guess that's similar, but interesting. Yeah. Wow. Okay.
And I guess, yeah, Ohio. I mean, there's both
the vowels
and I's, yeah, and 4 letters.
Yep, the 3 vowels.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, don't make that mistake, folks. It's Des Moines and it's Iowa. Yeah, the great state, not Ohio, not Idaho. Super cool. Cool.
Well, thank you for playing our fun what is the answer trivia game.
A pass. Hopefully it's at a passing score, 60%.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no. You did much better than I would imagine most people would do. That's for sure.
Greatest batting average of all time. I guess the wrong sport.
True.
Hey, I'll take a 60% field goal percentage.
Yeah, it's pretty solid.
Good shooting.
Right. So before we let you go here, Ted, one last question that we ask all our podcast guests on the show: why is sports important?
I mean, that's a great question. I think, all kinds of things. I think, it builds, as everyone says, like, it builds character and teamwork and all of that. But, I think what it really does is just, it's a thing to, just to have a bunch of fun. It's a way to get physical activity and then have a bunch of fun. I find now, I currently play, in a men's league again, and just doing it for fun, and just how much I enjoy the camaraderie of being with other people, and moving up and down and moving your body, and having just a friendly competition, and how important that is. And I think it's, it's so important for kids to be able to see, how to learn how to play team sports and how to, work well with others, learn how to lose, learn how to win properly, and, learn how to just continue to, grow in a certain way. I think there's so many life lessons that you can take from it, no matter, if you're winning, if you're losing, how you do in a game and how you do amongst others. And so I think it's just a great way to learn, about life. And then it's just a great way to, get some good exercise and have a bunch of fun with all of your friends.
Amen.
Awesome.
Well, it's a great note to end it on.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Ted. Super appreciate your time. And looking forward to hopefully meeting you in person one day, but just appreciate all the stories about your basketball journey, and here's to many more.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you for having me. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. It's been a lot of fun.
Super cool. From the Colorado Rockies to the banks of the Missouri. Thanks to all our listeners from points in between and not in between. Until next time, he's John and I'm Adam. Stay classy, Frostburg.